Hey Glenn, hey Rojan, how's it going?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Welcome, welcome. We'll just let the participants start coming in. I see there's actually quite a few, so we'll give them a few minutes and then we'll get started shortly.
Sure.
Are you guys in London today?
So I'm remote, so I'm in my house. So if you hear any background noise from a 6-year-old, that's not me. That'll be my daughter. And I think Rajan, you're at the office, right?
I am indeed in the office today. I thought I could use the multiple screen facilities that we have. Yeah, based in Canary Wharf. So
Very good. All right, so I see that people are still probably gonna give it another few seconds, then we'll get started. Let's take a look. All right, cool. So first of all, everybody, welcome back to our fireside chat. I'm excited to have both Glenn and Rajan here today. And I'm looking forward to a great session. Maybe I'll just kind of introduce the topic and then we'll jump into it. So, we've been talking about here about mastering cyber risk management, the right balance of technology and services. Cyber risk reporting is still in its infancy. Many companies are using cybersecurity consultants to help them, but often there too we find a lack of the necessary tools to help these clients at the end make well-advised decisions and how to cope with their threats, and in particular how to create a sustainable and long-term program that is really manageable. So this is kind of the topic that we thought we would tackle today. I'm Yair Solo, CEO, founder of Centraleyes, for those of you joining for the first time. And with me today, we have both Glenn Vighton and Rojan Madhavi Jvani from our partner, ITC Secure, who's based out of the UK, who provides cybersecurity services there. We'll kind of focus today on both how ITC is empowering their clients using Centraleyes today, and also how by leveraging technology, ITC is now able to provide different insights and visibility to their customers that was not there before. So on that note, maybe I'll introduce our guests here. I'll start with Glenn. Glenn was the head of cyber advisory at ITC Secure. He was providing impartial consultancy and guidance to organizations from varying industries so they could achieve sustainable and robust security posture. He's represented, many organizations across multiple industries, construction, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and so on. And Glenn himself also is a CISSP, so a practitioner with a lot of knowledge there. Rojan is a cyber analyst at ITC Secure. She began her career as a cybersecurity analyst at major financial institutions, and she's gained experience working with highly sensitive and privileged information and projects. And today she supports, through ITC, many organizations who are trying to assess and improve their security posture and their background. So welcome to you both. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thanks.
Yeah, so a few just pointers. We're going to introduce a survey a little bit later on. Please, feel free to participate, and then we'll discuss the results at the end. So maybe just talking about the topic here today. We look at a lot of what's going on, and we looked at a lot of statistics in the industry, and I looked at Deloitte's recent report together with Compliance Week that found that 40% of companies don't complete a yearly assessment there. In Hyperproof's 2021 IT compliance benchmark survey, they found a lot of really cool statistics there. But 65% of all survey respondents still manage IT risk with an ad hoc and reactive approach. And 44% of the respondents also said they're not doing a good job at identifying existing controls. And these all go back to the topic that we're talking about today. So the need for an expert consultant that can identify risks and threats seems to be pretty obvious. And I think that's where ITC's role really kind of comes into tact here. And maybe we'll start kind of with, our first part here is really the experience, the main topics. Maybe you can tell us more about the unique journey that you guys have gone through, each one of you, and just kind of talk about how you've reached this point, and a little bit of background and context would be great for our viewers.
Sure.
Glenn, why don't you start? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll start. So yeah, I kind of stumbled into cybersecurity. I think like a lot of people in the industry, I started somewhere else. So my kind of break-in was working on typical IT break fix kind of technical roles. So first line, second line, people's machines aren't working, they bring to me to go and fix. So that I did that for the early part of my career. I then moved into project management, so IT project management, making systems work, new systems, making them live, migrating over to different platforms. That was great. And then what I started finding kind of a year or two into that was all of the projects that I was running were something to do with making IT safer, right? So making a system more secure, closing down ports and migrating to cloud systems that we were concerned about. So I started really lifting the hood underneath, what's the drive behind all of these cybersecurity projects. I went from there onto managing a cybersecurity department, and then the rest of the history, moving from industry to industry. Kind of a jack of all trades. I don't really specialize on a particular industry, but as you said, manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods, pharmaceuticals are all great industries that I spent a bit of time in. And then over to the consulting practice now, which is for me just a really great way to see lots of different clients, lots of different industries, and learn actually at the same time that every day is a school day, and that's something I would say quite a lot at ITC. That's me in a nutshell. I'll hand over to Roja.
Roja, over to you.
Thanks. I would definitely agree with every day being a school day when you're working at ITC. So I had a very different journey into cybersecurity. I started off I did my degrees in humanities and business, so it was very much kind of languages and business risk focused. And then from there, I decided I wanted to work in the corporate world with a focus on kind of business to business growth and things like that. So following that, I just decided that avenue wasn't really what I expected it to be or what I wanted. So I just kind of stumbled into cyber once I started doing some research and self-study. And then, like you said, I started working at a major financial institution focused in like identity and access management, but more so the risk and process development side of it. So it was the risk factor that was the kind of key thing for me going from there, and then moving into ITC, which I started last year in a more advisory position as opposed to being kind of process development. And it's let me kind of broaden the scope of my understanding, and has let me learn so much. Like Glenn said, it is literally, you learn something new every day from the people that we work with, both our colleagues and our clients as well. So it's been really, really useful.
Yeah, that's great. And I think in general, the cybersecurity space is full of a lot of professionals that are dealing with an ongoing changing environment. That's what makes it interesting, but also challenging at the same time, right? It's an ever moving kind of target. The risks that existed yesterday are, sometimes not relevant tomorrow, and the ones from tomorrow didn't even exist yesterday. So I think that's really kind of the challenge that we're looking to tackle. ITC and Glenn, was a big part of launching this with the team. Has launched a navigator offering there, which is a platform that we'll talk about shortly. But really, that platform, part of it is powered by Centraleyes' risk management platform. And maybe a little bit of information, Glenn, about how you guys were traditionally running cyber assessments before using the platform. What are the deliverables, and also kind of what were those pain points there from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. So we were running cybersecurity assessments in the same way as probably 90% of our competition was doing. In fact, still are doing. So it typically looked like a physical presence on site. We would send a couple of consultants to go and meet the client. cyber assessments would take anywhere between a month to a week to a month, depending on the size of the organisation. The output of that was a large report, and that was actually one of the major pain points. Is the kind of ratio between spending time with the client, learning about the client, getting into the technology, doing the scans, really kind of what I would call looking under the hood of the company. The ratio of that between kind of back end administration and paperwork, so actually writing the report, creating the report, they were manual. It took a long time. Of course, we put a lot of effort into writing that and the quality checks, but the customer doesn't see that. They see the output. It looks great at a point in time, but what we really want to do is put that on its head, so that we're spending more time with the client and less time actually writing reports and things like that, but still getting the value in the output. That really drove us to kind of look into the market, and the obvious kind of solution to that was, let's look at technology, right? We have the people, we have the process, we have our blended methodology, which I'll talk about a bit later, I'm sure. But we just didn't have the technology to help us deliver that. So we came across Centraleyes quite early on in on that journey. Lots of other kind of competitors out there. I think we all know there's no kind of shortage of kind of cybersecurity technology companies. For us, what stood out with Centraleyes was the value of the partnership. And I think actually the way that the platform was designed, kind of with the end user in mind, somebody that it's so intuitive. Even if you're not from an IT or a cybersecurity background, you can still look at the platform and it kind of makes sense. A bit like in the same way that a 5-year-old can pick up an iPhone and kind of work their way around the menu screen. We're finding that with a lot of our clients as well. They're automatically, without any introduction, really, they're understanding the platform. So, that's a big jump from our paper-based report to a nice intuitive platform.
I think that also the ability to go from, an end deliverable that is static to something that's live is a big game changer, because it also enables the clients to manage this risk, to Rojan's point, where things are moving all the time, right? And then this is a constantly moving target. You need a platform that's not just a static snapshot in time, but something that can help you kind of move with that target. And then I think also creating stickiness by the end client, where you remain relevant there, right? And you can help them along the journey also, not just in that assessment process, is also a very different way of approaching a risk assessment and an engagement like that. Just maybe Rojan, over to you. Like when what as somebody who's a practitioner and has used the manual tool before, what to you are you trying to achieve when using a platform here? What are those main, I guess, value points from your perspective?
I guess from our perspective, we wanted to improve what our consulting could provide for the client. We wanted to make it a more streamlined approach, and reduce generally like the overall cost for the client, because obviously with the less time you are spending on the manual report writing, the less time the project will take to deliver. So it just improves our efficiency, reduces the cost because it is less time spent just kind of going through reports. And the benefits to it have been really not only kind of in that moment, but also for kind of the future as well. Like having something that isn't static allows you to kind of review your progress, which then can, help create further sales opportunities in the future if they wanted to do another assessment, or Glenn, I don't know what you think on this, but this is just obviously my perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I think also as well, I think it's quite motivating for a client as well to see progress. So the old, if we think about the old way of doing things, right, we gave them a report. They were kind of flying blind for a little while. That they may fix close a port down that we told them to close, and then maybe they wait till next year for us to come around again and kind of reevaluate. So there's a lot of wait time between getting the report, making the change, then seeing a difference. Again, that's something that we've been able to do with Centraleyes platform, right? So we're really putting the client in the driving seat. They get the report still, they can make the change, but they can also automatically and straight away see the impact of that change is made onto their overall cybersecurity risk posture, which is I think it's definitely a motivator as well. You know, the clients are more engaged, they like the platform, they want to see that, you know, they want to see that score going up and up. We think that's such a great driver.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think from the value that we see across our entire client base, and in particular with the partnership with you guys, is that combination of services and technology really has like a winning recipe here, where you bring cutting edge services, which before maybe it was hard to differentiate a little bit because in a market that has a lot of consultants in it, and you know the big four and other players, you know, playing hard in that same space. But then when you bring in a piece of technology that very few people have, actually almost nobody has, and you know it's very different than a typical GRC platform. In particular, what you just mentioned now, I think that ability to both benchmark and create like reports automatically, right? Where am I today? Where I would like to be, but then also to measure progress over time, right? Like how have I, you know, gone up over time? That is a huge, I think, value. Both of the, I think, to you guys as a consultancy, but obviously to your end clients, right? Where you can show that value now in a quantified way to the end customer. You know, maybe talk a little bit about, your offering and the uniqueness around that. And, you know, how is that unique? I know there's lots of, like you just mentioned, other consultancies, also MSSPs out there. We'd love to hear a little bit more about how ITC is kind of differentiating themselves in the market today.
Sure. So I think the main way that we differentiate ourselves is our approach to conducting the cyber assessments, or whatever you call it. I think a lot of the big four have 4 different names for what they call a cyber assessment. What we call it is our blended methodology. So this is our kind of our secret sauce, basically. It's our way of measuring your cybersecurity risk posture. What we find is a lot of our other competitors will focus on a single industry framework as their benchmark. So CIS Top 20, NIST 800, 53, maybe ISO 27001. What we found over time is actually when we were, by focusing on a single framework, although it's great for kind of structure and all the research that's gone behind it, they tend to be focused on a particular set of controls. So, for example, ISO 27001 is very good at kind of scoping your ISMS. It's very good at getting the kind of policies and procedures in place. But when it comes to technology, you might want to move to a more kind of technology focused framework. So, yeah, really our kind of plan to the market was, okay, let's come up with something that works for the majority of customers. Let's come up with something that's pragmatic as well. We were finding a lot of our competitors weren't very kind of pragmatic. And what I mean by that is you may have a control that says something like, I don't know, build a culture of cybersecurity at your organization. That's a really hard control to measure and say when you completed that. So we kind of got rid of all of the fluff, what I call fluff, and we focus on the really deliverable objective controls. You know, close a port, create a policy, make sure your board is reviewing on X kind of basis. So, you know, that it just really made sense to our clients. I think that's a big that's a big driver of actually getting your client to make a change. You know, if they don't understand the output of the report, they're going to really struggle to fix it. So I think that's really where we differentiate ourselves is with our blended methodology.
Yeah, and I love hearing that because, like, I guess part of the journey that I had as launching the company, you know, started back over 5 years ago. And, you know, when I got started, I really spent a lot of time in the market trying to understand the pain points. And a big part of that was with consulting firms, which we met later on in the process, obviously. But I was really trying to understand, you know, how I could bring the differentiation that a consulting company has, right, their secret sauce, into a technology and then mix it together. And like by us, you know, you guys know, we have a bunch of dedicated areas to consultants in the platform, which helps you manage your clients. But then you can also build in your proprietary framework like ITC has today, right? Their blended methodology, which is in the platform, and they're providing to their clients through that. And then leveraging some of the features that we have live in the platform. And actually a recent feature I think was, you know, and you guys are familiar with it, which was a big upgrade, was the smart mapping feature, where through, you know, our ability to crosswalk controls over to other frameworks, now what's going to happen as a result of that new capability is over time, you'll be able to crosswalk controls from one single methodology that you've created. And then as your clients need additional compliance requirements, other things, they don't have to do repetitive work, right? Because of the hard work that you've done for your clients, now it's going to save them 40, 50% of their time on an assessment for a new framework in the future. So I think part of what we've tried to do is plan that infrastructure and base to make it kind of future proof, and the ability to scale this into other projects around that. I also am just going to mention now that anybody has a Q&A is welcome to post questions in the chat box. So we'll be taking some questions shortly. Glenn, maybe just another thing that you could tell us a little bit more about, in the UK market, do you see, and maybe actually I wouldn't ask you earlier, but are you guys operating today besides the UK market in other markets outside of the UK?
Yeah, so the vast majority of our clients are in the UK, most of which are in kind of London, central London, because of the verticals that we focus on. But yeah, we certainly have clients across Europe. We also have an office out in Washington, DC, so we have lots of US clients as well. So we have a kind of a beachhead in our Canary Wharf office in Washington, DC. But yeah, we're kind of finding clients in every geography at the moment. So it's quite exciting for us.
Yeah, so the reason I asked there is because I think that your presence in different locations is another piece of being able to service clients globally, as like the different frameworks and industry specific things come out, and specifically geographical privacy acts come out. I think that's one of the areas that will see tremendous growth over the next 12 to 18 months in the US, and somewhere you guys have set up shop also. I think there's in particular large opportunity there, as state by state they're going to start coming out with these privacy and regulations on those levels, and helping clients suddenly address this mass. I mean, there's 20 states that have already started legislating privacy laws, right? So it's 20 GDPRs going on in parallel. It's going to be interesting to say the least. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the questions that have come in. What extra value does an end client get from a consultant who uses the centralized platform as opposed to a report from another tool? For example, like you mentioned before, Glenn, there are other tools. So maybe what are some of the advantages that you see today in the platform?
Sure, I can take that. So I think with the platform, I would say that actually as an end client, you don't just get a view of your cybersecurity risk posture, you actually get a whole tool set, right? So something that tends to happen with the typical way of running running a cyber assessment is the report turns into an Excel spreadsheet, and then that turns into 5 Excel spreadsheets, and then one of those Excel spreadsheets turns into a big PDF report that goes to the board. It all gets a bit messy, and it doesn't really speak to each other kind of database. When we give our clients access to the centralized platform, something that they tend to get really excited about, I think, is the fact that they can start to use this now to converse with the board, right? So if you're in let's say you're a cybersecurity manager or a head of IT, you don't now have to kind of create these manual Excel dashboards to speak with the board. You can present the centralized, for example, the upper deck view, right? Really intuitive graphical view of your cybersecurity risk posture, and it's there in kind of an executive language as well. So it's, it gives you that tool set. I think there's lots of other ways of splitting up the data. For example, looking at your progress as well, you can really measure how many actions, for example, you've closed off in the last quarter. Again, that's something that's quite hard to track unless you've got a super duper spreadsheet kind of kicking around. So
super duper spreadsheet. I've built a bunch of those in my life.
So yeah.
Rojan, I'll give you the next question. Which do you feel is more important, investing in a risk management tool or investing in a consultant engagement? It's a good question, especially for like smaller companies that often have to make a choice. What would you think, is the first pick there? Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry. I have a terrible habit of muting myself when I'm trying to speak.
Everybody's having it just made this fireside chat real, so it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't pre-recorded, guys. Yeah, I would definitely say an engagement with a firm who uses a tool would probably be the best course of action, because as an individual from a company, for example, that has very little cybersecurity awareness, you probably wouldn't be able to make sense of what some of the requirements are in terms of what the compliance is requiring. So having a professional on board who can give you access to the tool, can guide you through the whole process and kind of show you what you're missing and what you need to kind of get you to the next level and improve your security posture is definitely the way forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also, I mean, I'm biased because I represent the tool, but I actually think that the professional, the consultant comes first. I think that sometimes that could be an internal resource. It depends on the case, but you definitely need somebody that can manage this. What I tell people all the time, we're not the kind of tool that we create that can just be plugged and run on its own. It's not like this plug and play type tool. It is a much more intuitive tool than other GRC platforms, but it certainly requires somebody to manage this. And there are pieces that require human intervention here. So having that either internal expertise, and usually that doesn't exist, especially in small to mid-sized businesses, then you need to have external resources that could help. So I definitely agree with that. So I think we'll see the survey results shortly, but in the meantime, I'm going to go to the personal question side. So I'm going to shoot a few at you guys. I'll just randomly pick people. So Rojan, what's your favorite quote?
Oh, this is a tough one.
People have gotten involved in this one.
Yeah, no, I will keep it work appropriate. Probably there's something that my grandma always used to say to me when I was younger, and it was, the words you speak become the house you live in. And it basically was just means like, be careful of what you say because it will define you and basically frame your life. And it's from, I believe it's from a Persian poet. So yeah, it's one of those things that's always stuck with me. But that is by far one of my favorite quotes.
All right, cool. You did pretty good there. People have fallen much harder on that one. Glenn, if you weren't a cybersecurity professional, what would you be? We got a really good answer to this once also. So I'm interested to hear.
I think my answer might be quite boring. I think I would, at this point, probably like to look into kind of teaching, teaching tech to children. I think that's probably where I would have liked to have gone. If cybersecurity just didn't exist, right? That's maybe where I would have gone.
Yeah, well, we got, I think, a kindergarten teacher once, so it's not so far from that, actually.
Not quite kindergarten, I don't think I'd go. Yeah, go that age group.
Rojan, what's your idea of a perfect day?
Okay,
I'm preparing Glenn. You're going next to the same question, so
this also might sound a little bit boring, but literally just waking up somewhere warm and sunny with an ocean view with like my friends and family and lots of food, lots of drinks, just enjoying my time with the people that I love. I feel like in today's society, we don't get time to do that as often as we would like to. So having the opportunity, and being in the UK, it's cold all the time. Even our summers are cold. So having the sun would be amazing.
I was going to say that's a typical London answer.
Yeah, right? I know, right?
Yeah, some sun.
But I hear that. How about you, Glenn?
I think I just want to join Rojan on her perfect day. That sounds pretty good. My perfect day would wake up with a nice strong coffee, kind of a good day without a good coffee in the morning. I would spend time with my family. I would get out my canoe. I love going out my canoe if the sun was there though as well. So I'd have to borrow that sun from Rojan's dream day as well.
I love that. The canoe one is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't see the let's see here. Oh, here we go. Now I see it. Okay. What keeps you up at night? That's the poll. Let's take a look. So what keeps you up at night? We had potential breach, upcoming audit, or communicating cyber risk to executives. And it looks like communicating cyber risk to executives actually had the most votes there. So that's interesting. Let's see what else here. Is vendor risk a top priority for 2022? It's actually a topic we didn't discuss today. That pretty much split down the middle, the results there, 50-50 on that one. But vendor risk is another one that I think is interesting. Also, obviously the platform provides a dedicated solution to, third-party risk management through our third-party solution. But that's another area I think that is an opportunity for service providers today to create additional areas of services and revenue around managed third-party risk management, kind of as a service. Let's take a look here. We have more questions here. Let's see how we have 2 more minutes. Let's see. How reliant is an effective cybersecurity strategy on having a successful risk management regime? Glenn, you want to take that one?
How reliant is an effective cybersecurity strategy having a success? Okay, yeah, good question. Tough one. I think you can't really have one or the other. If you've got a cybersecurity strategy that isn't talking about cybersecurity risk, I don't know what you're talking about. You may be aligning to I don't know, to a random framework out there. I think cybersecurity has to at least articulate risk, right? Business kind of executives are used to speaking about risk, financial risk, compliance risk, kind of physical health and safety risks. So, you know, cybersecurity is not kind of above all of that. You know, cybersecurity really is just another thing that can go wrong at a company. So, yeah, you have to have both, I think.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I think that the cybersecurity risk management piece is actually the overarching piece, because it's much more of a strategic, look at your cyber, security strategy. And it's, it's really that, kind of overarching plan. And you have a lot of stuff that are tactical day-to-day things going on in cybersecurity, from the SOC to the SIM, which are super important in finding, like, what I call the bad guys in the building. But, when you're in that point where that's your last kind of line of defense, you're usually in trouble anyways. If you've thought about the strategy before, and you have different lines of defense, and one of them is obviously what I just mentioned now, like the SOC and the SIM and the active, threat intelligence and things like that. But then there's other areas of controls and other mitigations of open gaps and risks that exist that you've thought about before. And I think those become sometimes the critical element in, turning a catastrophic attack into a, just a minor glitch. And the best example that, if we look at the NIST, I always quote the NIST CSF as a framework. When you look at like the functions there, so the identify, protect, detect, like the respond, recover, you're talking about after you've been breached already. Right, you've been breached. You're already assuming you're going to be breached, and now what do you do the day after? Right, so having that very strategic kind of long-term view, I think, is very, very important. To a successful cybersecurity program. So on that note, number one, I want to thank our guests here for joining us today. Super insightful. Anybody who's interested in hearing more about ITC, feel free to reach out to them directly. We will have a new fireside chat next month, and we'll be disclosing the topic and guests in the coming week or so. The recording of this event will be available online. I've been told to plug the Centraleyes platform here, so anybody who's interested in the free trial, feel free to head to centraleyes.com and hit free trial there, and in a matter of minutes to hours, you'll be up and running already. And I think on that note, wishing everybody just a healthy, happy final quarter of the year, and looking forward to seeing everybody on the next webinar and fireside chat. Take care. Thanks a lot, Glenn. Thanks, Rajan. Take care.
Thank you.